A small bedroom in suburban Chicago, early in the morning. The air is still cold, carrying the faint scent of lily of the valley. A mother stands in the pale light, sweeping a stiff boar bristle brush rhythmically over a heavy tweed skirt. The crisp, scratching sound fills the quiet room. If you opened her closet, you would be shocked. She owned only a handful of dresses and 3 pairs of shoes. But the strange part is this. She always looked infinitely more elegant than women today, with closets overflowing with fast fashion. What made her look so put together was not a designer label. It was a set of unspoken rules. These are 15 forgotten style rules. 1950s women were taught to follow. They vanished not because they failed, but because they demanded discipline. And discipline cannot be sold. Now, before we dive in, tap that subscribe button. You will not want to miss what is coming next. When you look at everyday photographs of women from the mid-20th century, there is a distinct crispness to how they present themselves. It is tempting to think they simply had better clothes. But the truth is they had better habits. The modern fashion industry wants you to believe that style is a product you buy. Back then, style was a standard you practiced. These rules were quiet routines, passed from mother to daughter in the soft glow of vanity mirrors and the quiet corners of laundry rooms. The deeper you look, the less old-fashioned these habits seem. What disappeared was not just the elegant result, but the knowledge required to achieve it. The old way was not always primitive. Sometimes it was simply too efficient to monetize. And the countdown starts with a daily ritual that happened long before a dress ever saw the inside of a washing machine. Number 15. The daily brushing of clothes. Before synthetic fabrics dominated the market, women wore heavy wools, tweeds, and sturdy cottons. You did not simply toss a tailored coat into a washing machine after one wear. Instead, women used a stiff boar bristle clothes brush. Every evening, you would hear the rhythmic, sweeping sound of the brush against the fabric, lifting off the day's dust, lint, and street soot. It smelled of dry wool and fresh air. This technique extended the life of the garment indefinitely. Today, we overwash cheap fabrics until they fall apart in months. Back then, a good brush cost perhaps $2, but it saved a $50 coat from ruin. It was an act of preservation. Number 14. Wearing a slip under everything. A slip was never meant to be seen. It was functional architecture. Made of cool, smooth rayon or nylon, a slip acted as a barrier between the skin's natural oils and the expensive outer dress. When a 1950s woman walked, her skirt glided perfectly without clinging or static, accompanied by a faint, elegant rustle. Instead of washing the tailored outer garment, which would destroy its shape, she only needed to wash the slip. The modern world forgot this completely, preferring to sweat directly into garments and wash them aggressively. The slip was a silent protector of an investment. Number 13. Matching the handbag to the shoes. The rule was absolute. The leather of your handbag had to match your shoes. A 1950s woman did not need 20 pairs of cheap disposable footwear. She needed 3 excellent sets, black, brown, and perhaps white for summer. When she stepped out, you heard the sharp, deliberate click of a leather heel, followed by the solid snap of a metal purse clasp. By restricting her choices, she guaranteed elegance. We look at modern closets bursting with mismatched fast fashion and see chaos. The 1950s woman looked at her 3 matching sets and saw perfect control. Notice what these first few rules had in common. They were not about buying more products. They were about protecting what you already owned. They required time, not money. Number 12. The weekly shoe polishing ritual. Usually done on a quiet Sunday evening, polishing shoes was a non-negotiable household rhythm. The air would fill with the sharp, distinct scent of kiwi or shinola shoe paste. With an old cotton rag wrapped around 2 fingers, women rubbed the polish into scuffed leather before buffing it to a high shine with a soft brush. A scuff mark was not a reason to throw a pair of shoes away. It was simply a call for maintenance. Today, A scuffed shoe is trash. In the mid-century, mending what was worn out was a point of pride, not a sign of poverty. Number 11. Gloves for public outings. Leaving the house with bare hands was, in many circles, considered undressed. Women pulled on snug cotton or kid leather gloves, carefully smoothing the fabric over each finger. The gloves provided a physical and psychological boundary between the private self and the public world. They kept hands clean from department store counters and brass door handles, but more importantly, they forced a deliberate, slower way of moving. You cannot rush clumsily when wearing pristine white gloves. The early tricks solved practical problems of preservation and cleanliness. But the next group of tricks moved from the hallway into the quiet of the sewing box, where the rules became even more precise. Number 10. Mending invisible tears immediately. Long before fast fashion normalized throwing away a shirt over a loose button, women kept a sewing box, often repurposed from an old Royal Dance cookie tin, ready. Under the warm glow of a living room lamp, a mother would carefully thread a needle to catch a falling hem or darn a hole in a wool sock over a wooden mushroom. You could hear the faint, satisfying pull of the cotton thread passing through the heavy fabric. A stitch in time saves 9 was not just a charming proverb. It was household economics. A needle and thread cost almost nothing, but they required patience, a currency the modern world is entirely bankrupt of today. Number 9. Changing clothes for the time of day. A 1950s woman did not wear the same outfit from morning until night. The day was divided into distinct chapters. Mornings called for a practical cotton house dress or a zippered housecoat, often smelling faintly of percolating coffee and ivory dish soap. But by the late afternoon, before her husband returned or evening began, there was a deliberate shift. She washed her face, applied fresh lipstick, and changed into a crisp day dress. This was a psychological boundary. Changing clothes separated the labor of the day from the peace of the evening. Today we blur the lines, wearing the same sweatpants from the bed, to the grocery store, to the couch. By this point, the pattern is no longer about products. It is about standards. The 1950s, woman did not have a closet full of clothes. She had a closet full of discipline. Number 8. Keeping your posture straight. You could buy the most expensive dress at a high-end department store, but if you slouched, it meant nothing. Posture was considered the absolute foundation of style. Young girls were repeatedly reminded to pull their shoulders back, lift their chins, and walk as if they were balancing a heavy book on their heads. A $5 homemade cotton dress looked like haute couture on a woman who carried herself with pride. Today, we spend fortunes on designer labels only to hunch over glowing screens. True elegance, they understood, cost nothing but physical self-awareness. Number 7. The power of a good girdle. Modern people often view foundation garments purely as an obsession with thinness. But in the mid-century, a girdle was about architecture. The tailored clothing of the era, with its precise darts and stiff seams, required a smooth, firm base to drape correctly. Stepping into a girdle, feeling the sharp snap of the heavy elastic, and fastening the tiny metal hooks, instantly changed how a woman sat and breathed. It acted as a physical reminder to hold her stomach in and her spine straight. It was hidden armor, creating the illusion of perfection from the inside out. Number 6. Setting hair in rollers the night before. The effortless, bouncy curls seen in 1950s photographs were actually the result of quiet, private labor. Every night, women sat at their vanity mirrors, applying a dab of setting lotion and carefully rolling damp sections of hair into pink sponge rollers, securing them with cold metal bobby pins. It was an undeniably uncomfortable way to sleep. But it protected the hair from the damaging heat we use today. And it was a ritual of delayed gratification. Doing the hard work in the dark so you could wake up ready for the light. But the next few rules were different. They were not just about solving physical problems or shaping the body. They were about how a woman carried herself through the world, entering the quiet territory of character and respect. Number 5. A signature scent, never oversprayed. Before the era of cheap aerosol body sprays, perfume was an investment kept in a heavy glass bottle on the vanity. A 1950s woman did not walk through a suffocating cloud of mist. Instead, she carefully lifted the glass stopper, applying a single cold dab behind her ears and on the inside of her wrists. Perhaps it was a drop of Shalimar or Evening in Paris. The rule was strict. Your scent should only be noticed by someone who stepped intimately into your personal space. It was a quiet secret, not a public announcement. Today, we assault the senses of everyone in an elevator with overpowering synthetic fragrances. Back then, restraint was considered the ultimate sophistication. Number 4. Never leaving the house in curlers. The boundary between the private grooming ritual and the public sphere was an iron wall. A woman simply did not go to the grocery store, the post office, or even the front porch with pink sponge rollers visible in her hair. If she absolutely had to run an errand before her hair was completely set, she meticulously tied a silk scarf over her head to hide the evidence. It was not about vanity, it was a basic respect for the community. You presented a finished self to the world. Today, people routinely wear fleece pajama pants to the airport. What modern society calls comfort, the 1950s, woman would have immediately recognized as a complete collapse of dignity. The closer we get to number 1, the less this is about objects and the more it is about identity. These were not just habits. They were quiet standards, repeated until they became character. Number 3. Having good clothes for Sundays. In the mid-century home, the wardrobe was clearly divided by purpose, and the highest tier was strictly reserved for the end of the week. Sunday best was not just a charming phrase. It was a carefully preserved wool suit that smelled faintly of cedarwood, or a sharply pressed dress worn only for church services and formal family dinners. By putting on specific, elevated clothing on a specific day, a mother taught her children a profound, unspoken lesson. Not all time is equal. Some moments require reverence. We have traded this beautiful rhythm for endless, monotonous casual wear. When you dress exactly the same for a meaningful gathering as you do for a Tuesday trip to the store, life loses its sense of occasion. What looks small from the outside often carries the heaviest memory. And as we enter the final 2 rules, we uncover the exact reasons why a grandmother's closet felt so completely different from ours. Number 2. Buying fabric, not just fashion. If you handed a 1950s woman a modern, mass-produced, fast fashion dress, she would instantly know something was terribly wrong just by closing her eyes and touching it. Back then, a woman did not buy an outfit for a single Friday night. She bought a garment expecting it to work hard for her for a decade. In department stores, she would rub the edge of a wool skirt between her thumb and forefinger, checking the weight, the weave, and the integrity of the threads. She would flip a dress inside out, inspecting the width of the hem allowance, knowing that a generous hem meant the dress could be altered as her body changed over the years. She understood the crisp, breathable snap of real cotton and the heavy, protective drape of genuine tweed. Today, our closets are overflowing, yet we have nothing to wear because our clothes are essentially made of cheap synthetics that lose their shape after 3 washes. The modern industry trained us to buy the trend. The mid-century woman was taught to buy the architecture, and now we reach the one that explains all the others. The final rule was never just about the clothes. It was about what happened around them, and the quiet lessons passed down in the shadows of the hallway. Number 1. Dressing as armor and dignity. There is a very specific memory that many people of a certain age share. It is the image of a grandmother or a mother, standing in the quiet light of the front hallway, just before turning the brass doorknob to face the outside world. She pauses at the mirror. She smooths the lapel of her tailored coat. She adjusts the angle of her hat by a fraction of an inch. She picks up her leather handbag, the clasp snapping shut with a firm metallic click. And somewhere in the background, a daughter is watching from the doorway, entirely unseen, absorbing everything without a single word being spoken. To the modern, cynical eye, This rigorous routine looks exhausting. It looks like an unhealthy obsession with appearances. But it was not. You have to remember the context of the era. The world was often uncertain. Household budgets were meticulously stretched, and life required immense, silent labor. But how you presented yourself, the crispness of your collar, the straightness of your spine, the shine on your shoes, that was the one thing you could absolutely control. It was not vanity. It was armor. It was a daily, physical declaration of self-respect. When that 1950s woman stepped out onto the front porch, fully put together, she was telling the world that she had not surrendered to the chaos. She was not a victim of her circumstances. The discipline of getting dressed was not a product she bought from a magazine. It was an inheritance of dignity. The industry did not replace this mindset because it failed. It replaced it because true dignity cannot be packaged and sold. When we look back at these forgotten style rules, it becomes remarkably clear that they did not vanish because we found better alternatives. They vanished because we traded the quiet power of discipline for the loud promise of convenience. We traded the patience of maintaining a few good things for the hollow thrill of constantly buying cheap replacements. What we truly lost was not just the boar-bristle brush, the tailored slip, or the Sunday dress. We lost the mother-to-daughter teaching. We lost the daily practice of household intelligence, self-reliance, and personal standards. But somewhere, in an old photograph, the elegance remains. Somewhere, an old compact mirror snaps shut. Somewhere, the faint scent of cedarwood and pressed powder still lingers in a hallway closet. And somewhere, without a word being spoken, a daughter is still watching, waiting to learn how to stand tall in a world that constantly asks her to slouch. What is the one style rule your mother or grandmother taught you that you still follow today? Share your memories in the comments below. If you found a piece of your own history in this video, please like, subscribe, and click the video on your screen right now to explore more forgotten wisdom from the past.